Welcome to Elementary Latin here at Wittenberg Academy. This video is an introduction to the overall course. It works for both Elementary Latin 1 and Elementary Latin 2. And in this video, I'll show you the book that we're going to be using. We'll go over Latin pronunciation and also how to study. So this is our book, Minimus, starting out in Latin. This is the Elementary Latin 1 book, and if you're in Elementary Latin 2 and you're watching this as a reminder of how all this works, of course you're in the next volume. So each week we'll go through a chapter, and here are all the chapters. I should say each week, if you're a homeschool student, that's the normal pace, is one of these 12 chapters per week. We also do a lot of work at Wittenberg Academy with teaching Latin in brick and mortar schools, and so you may be spreading this out farther over the course of a semester or even a whole year. Whatever the case may be, this is our book, so you should have a copy of this. Grab it from Amazon or bookfinder.org. It is totally okay to use a used copy of the book if you can find one. Save a few dollars that way. That'll be a-okay. All right, so let's hop right into how to pronounce Latin, and then we'll talk about how our week of work typically goes here for our elementary Latin courses. But first, let's talk about the Latin alphabet and how to pronounce it. Now, it's the same alphabet as ours. We get our alphabet from Latin, but there are just some distinctions in how the letters are pronounced. So, for example, let's start with the vowels. So in English, we call these A, E, I, O, and U, of course. But in Latin, this ah, it's never pronounced like we pronounce A. It's always pronounced ah. So a long ah, as in father. So here are some Latin words: mater, gratias, clamat, vila. And when it's short, it's ah, as in dina, pater, quatuor, salva, taberna. Now, a distinction between a short ah and a long ah is pretty hard for us speakers of American English even to hear. Don't worry about it. The main thing I'm concerned that you note is that this letter is never pronounced a or ah. Not pronounced that way. It's always ah, ah. Either a short ah or a long ah. Likewise, this next letter that we call E, when it's long in Latin, is pronounced A, as in they in English. So these words here: salveta, tres, cana, hodie. And then when it's short, it's the English E, as in the word pet: bena, septem, vehamentur, vehamentur. And I, this letter that we call I, is not pronounced as I in Latin. When it's long, it's E, as in machine. So this is quinque, filius, scribit. And then when it's short, it is pronounced like a short I, as in pen: tibi, mihi, navis, ita, vidit. And then O. O is pretty easy. There's a long O, is our long O sound, so as has here is in clover. So non, octo, leo, mons, nomen. And when it's short, it's like an English short O, as in off. So octo, noum, hortus, hodie. And then U, a long U is in rude, unis, undecum, tu, salutat, and short as in put, ut, unda, colina, uxer, ululat. Okay, so those vowels pretty straightforward, but just remember, A is not an A in Latin. It's not A or a, it's always a. And E is not an E in Latin. It's A when it's long and E when it's short. And I is not an I in Latin. When it's long, it's E. And when it's short, it's I. All right, diphthongs. These are combinations of two vowels that are pronounced together. So, a, is pronounced I, as in aisle. So puelai, quaiso, saipa. See those here. Puelai, quaiso, saipa. Ow, au is pronounced like the ow in house. Laudat, out, paulisper, paulisper. So what we say in English is ei, but they would say e, is rain. So deinda. This word is deinda. The we in English would say oe, is pronounced like oi, as in oil. So this is coipet. The ui or is what they would say. It's brought together like in Spanish muy or gooey. And so down here, the Latin words that use this: cuius, huius, qui, hui, huic. Okay, huic. And at this point, I should say, here's probably the first flashcard you want to make for this class. You want to make a flashcard of these vowels, of these diphthongs, and how they're pronounced, so that you can study them easily. And you may even want to make a flashcard entry for all these letters, so that you can remember how each one of them is pronounced. And so let's take a look at how I'd like you to do flashcards. I'd like you to get 3x5 note cards and 3x5 lined note cards. And this is how I advise you to do it. This will allow you to have a lot of things on one note card. It'll make your stack of note cards, therefore, more manageable. If you just put one word or one letter here on one note card, you soon get a stack of note cards that's just unmanageable. So I advise you to use a note card in this way, so that down the middle of the note card you draw a line, and then on each side of that line you number it. And then here's your vocabulary words. And so puella, stella, video, cum, inter, deus, filius. And you don't need to know what these words are right now. This is just an example. And then on the back of the card, then you number them and write, what each of them means. And so for our example, you would, what you're going to have is, how do I pronounce these letters in Latin? And then on the back, for 13, you would put, that's I in aisle is how you pronounce that. So there's an example. So this is how I'd like you to do your vocabulary flashcards. Eventually, you will get to the point where you'll have other kinds of flashcards like this that deal with, these are called paradigms for both verbs and nouns. We'll get to that. We'll get to that eventually at a point here in Minimus where they give you a paradigm like this. And so this is how you say I praise in Latin, laudo. You praise, laudus. He praises, laudit. We praise, laudamus. Y'all praise, laudatus. And they praise, laudant. So we'll get to that another time, but now at least you can see here how that flashcard is made, and then of course the back, you have the principal parts or whatnot. Okay, so back to our pronunciation guide. The consonants. Latin consonants have essentially the same sounds as the English consonants, with the following exceptions. BS and BT were usually pronounced PS and PT at certain points in the words. I don't want you to worry about too much. So herbs would be pronounced erps. We're probably not going to worry about that too much. We'll keep our B's B's, but you may hear people pronounce it that way, and I might slip into that pronunciation when I'm reading things over this course, but don't worry about it. But here is one to worry about. C is always hard. It's always pronounced like a K, in other words. So C is always hard like a K. So this is culina, canis, taque, circum, civis. So if we look at this in Latin, if you looked at these two words in English, right, you learned in English that when C comes before an I, it's soft. So you would want to pronounce this circum and civis. But we're not going to do that. All our C's are always hard. Circum, civis. Likewise, all G's are always going to be hard. So here we've got viginti, ago, gustat, gerit. So again, in English, you might look at this and want to pronounce this word gerit. But no. Always going to be hard. Gerit, gustat, ago, viginti. I was used as a consonant. We use Y. We differentiate that. So when this I comes before a vowel in a word, this is Yanoa, Udix, Ubit, Yam, Yaket. Okay, so that's one thing to note. Just like in English, QU, quoqua, that's fine. R is trilled. I don't care if you trill your R's. So S is always the soft S. It's never a Z sound. So salva, senex, subito, servus, susurravit. T is always hard. Take, tablinum, tibi, turba, and tuba. It's never got a TS sound. In later Latin, in ecclesiastical Latin, you might have that T that sounds like a TS or even like a CH. But in classical Latin, we're keeping all of our T's very clean, hard T's. Take, tablinum, tibi, turba, tuba. This is another one that throws people. V is always going to have the sound of a W. So these are wila, wia, wale, viginti, wenet, widit, webrat. Okay. X is like English X. It's not a problem. CH is like the German CH or the Scottish CH. So this word is not pulcher like in English. It's pulcher, pulcher. Charta instead of charta, charta. Architectus, architectus. So again, if you Johann Sebastian Bach, B-A-C-H, Bach, not batch or botch, but Bach. We're going to pronounce our PHs like Fs, so don't worry about this too much. So they want you to pronounce this amphora, amphora. We're just going to say amphora, that's fine. Teatrum, not theatrum. They had kind of a hard TH, teatrum. And Magnus or Magnus, Benignus, Ignavus. That can be hard for English speakers. You'll probably hear me say it both ways, Magnus or Magnus. Again, I'm not going to worry about that one too much. The ones that are of special note are the fact that C is always hard, G is always hard, and the V is pronounced as a W. Those are the ones to really make note of. But of course, you can pause the video here and make all these into a flashcard, and that would be fine. But that's how you pronounce Latin. How are words divided into syllables? Really the same way that English is, but you'll need to get the knack for, what's the dividing point when two vowels go together, because these up here are the only diphthongs in Latin. So any other time, besides these two vowels go together, so when A and E go together, they're pronounced together, I. When A and U go together, they're pronounced together, ow. Whenever you see any other two vowels together, they're going to be separate. So UE is not a diphthong. So this is puela. IA is not a diphthong. So this is filii. Right? Likewise, IE is not a diphthong. They're pronounced separately. Hodie. Teatrum. Okay. A single consonant between two vowels goes with the second vowel. Again, that's a good rule from English too. Amicus, filius, gratias, agricola. And when two or more consonants stand between two vowels, you split the consonants. Anquila, salve, quatuor, fine. So the syllable division in Latin is basically the same as English. The one that's difficult is this first one because they put a lot of two vowels together. We don't do that so much in English. There's the accent. I'm going to skip this quantity part. Let's just look at accent. The accent is never on the last syllable. So this gets confusing for English speakers because, for example, if we go back to this sample note card here, we notice how these words all change their ending. And this is going to happen a lot in Latin, that words change their ending to indicate meaning. And so sometimes English speakers want to say laudo, laudas, laudat. We want to emphasize the part that changes, but that's not right. The accent in Latin is never on the last syllable of a word. So this word is not laudo, it's laudo, laudo, laudus, laudus, laudet, laudet. This word is laudamus, laudamus, not laudamus, laudamus. Okay, so in two-syllable words, the accent therefore always falls on the first syllable. Servus, mihi, octo. In a word of three or more syllables, the accent falls on the next to last syllable. That's sometimes called the penultimate syllable. If that syllable is heavy, or here most people call this long, if the syllable is long. Puella, salveta, tablinum, vagenti. If the second last syllable is short, then the accent goes to the third last syllable. Gratias, quatuor, undecum, triclinium. And how do you know if something is long or short? Well, if it has this long mark, this guy's calling them heavy. If it has a long mark, this macron, this is called, this over this E, that long marker, or this A, well then you know that vowel is long. Or a syllable can be long or heavy by position, and that happens when a vowel comes right before two consonants together. So a vowel is long if it has a long marker, or if it's a diphthong. All diphthongs are long. Or if that vowel comes right before two consonants together. So servat, portat, puella. So again, three ways for vowels to be long. Do they have a long marker? Are they a diphthong? Or does the vowel come right before two consonants together? Those are the three ways for a vowel to be long. Why is that important to know? Because in three-syllable words, you need to know if the second last syllable is short or long. If the second last syllable is long, it keeps the accent. If the second last syllable is short, then that accent's going to go back to the third last syllable. Okay, that's how to pronounce Latin. Some of that is probably confusing at this point, but don't worry about it. As we move through the first chapter and we come to our first live chat, which is usually on Wednesdays, check the schedule for this term, but my live chats are usually on Wednesday. You'll log on, we'll read together, and during our normal video lessons, you guys will do a lot of repeat after me and so forth. Which brings us to what our normal week looks like in elementary Latin. Again, this is a schedule if you're in our homeschool. If you're a homeschool student using these courses, this is going to be your normal week. If you're using this in a brick and mortar school, obviously you'll be assigned different things on different days from your teacher. But in a normal week, on Monday, you're going to watch the video for this class and do everything I tell you to do in that video. Repeat after me, follow along, and so forth. On Monday and Tuesday, you'll need to make your flashcards for the vocabulary and for the paradigms, and study those. On Wednesday, we'll typically have our live chat session to work on reading. And some chapters have more, actually most chapters have more than one video. So on Wednesday, you'll kind of repeat what you did on Monday. You'll watch the video and make flashcards. Then on Thursday and Friday, you can study your flashcards again for the quiz. If you need to rewatch the videos, do that. And then Friday or Saturday, take your quiz. So that's our normal week in elementary Latin. So I'm excited to have you in class. If this video has made you a little nervous with all the pronunciation and learning how things are pronounced and read, I want you to relax. You're gonna come along fine as we work through the first video and you repeat after me, and then we meet for the first time on Wednesday and we'd read together. All that's gonna come together. Don't worry about it. We're gonna have a good term in Latin, and once again, welcome.